Welcome to this InfoWorks webinar on InfoWorks taking the next steps. And in this session, we're going to be looking at working with multiple surfaces. So I guess the first thing is, let's just check you can all hear me. So if you can just raise your hands in the application. Yep, I can see hands raised. If you haven't raised your hand or you haven't heard me, obviously I've checked your speakers. Okay, so we'll just quickly run through the prelim stuff. So my name's Ian Robinson. I'm the infrastructure consultant here at Greytech. I've been doing this for over 18 years now. So my main role is to train, consult, present, and generally evangelise geospatial and civil engineering and BIM software. So in the Autodesk world, you've probably come across me working with AutoCAD, Map 3D, Civil 3D, InfoWorks obviously, vehicle tracking, Recap, and Navisworks as well. They're the main products that I cover. And at Greytech, we have 4 pillars to what we do. We create, simulate, fabricate, and manage. We work with the Autodesk portfolio of power pack, with our own power pack enhancements to help with the creation of construction and manufacturing deliverables. Then we then use our own simulation products, and then we move that through to the fabrication products, which we have as well, and to our own CDE products, and they link to internal and external platforms. So this webinar is firmly in the create phase of the project using InfoWorks, and we're going to continue with the Glen Ridding project and work with multiple surfaces. Just bear with me, I've got a question. I just wanted to check because it might be a relevant one. Is the attachment the correct ones? You mean the handouts? I hope so. I think so.
Sorry, I don't know that one.
Now Alexa's questioning me as well. Okay, we'll carry on. So this is the final webinar in the series covering InfoWorks. I've had a lot of requests from people new to the AEC collection wanting to know what to do with InfoWorks. So those of you that have been here before, you saw me run the beginner's guide to InfoWorks, and I followed that up with additional webinars covering in more detail on certain subjects, so libraries, quantities, and sharing. And if you missed any of them, they're on the on-demand portal of our website. This webinar is going to give you a little bit more information with InfoWorks and show you how you can work with multiple surfaces. I'm then going to continue with the same theme of new to some and look at the GIS tools that are now available to all AutoCAD users using AutoCAD Map 3D instead of vanilla AutoCAD. How do you work with mapping data, or to be more precise, GI data? And then I'm going to finish up this series with the new collaboration tools in Civil 3D using BIM 360. I've also added to the list the collection workshops. We ran these at the beginning of lockdown, funnily enough, and they were so popular we're rerunning them, but then we're using different subjects. So we're doing it's a 3-hour workshop on manufacturing, BIM 360 and infrastructure and the AEC collection. Mine's going to be on modelling junctions. So it'll be a 3-hour session on the 16th of July. So that's next Thursday, and then I'll do the map one on the Friday after that. So if you fancy joining us for that and you want to know how to model 3D junctions, it'll be done in InfoWorks, but primarily I'm going to be working in Civil 3D. So there'll be a little bit of InfoWorks on how we do junctions in there, but it's not a really long subject. And then I'm going to move to Civil 3D and do quite a bit in there. Okay, for the on-demand, there's a link here, so you can download this presentation, and they'll be on you can click on that link there, and that will take you to the on-demand where you can view the past webinars. And while you're there, just go to our blogs as well. You'll see the blogs, and you can subscribe to them as well. Right, we'll do, in fact, we won't do the poll today. Let's move on. We'll go straight into the agenda. So I'll just recap on what we've done so far, a little little bit on what's InfoWorks, the libraries, the quantities and the sharing, and then go straight in and work with multiple surfaces. So we're not going to spend an awful long time explaining the multiple surfaces. We're just going to go straight in and do them. I think that'd be more useful. So for those of you new to this series, the question is, what is InfoWorks? Well, it's primarily a conceptual design tool. It's a place to build ideas and try things out, if you like. It's a box full of content that will allow you to build your virtual world. And on that virtual world, you can do analysis and you can design stuff, roads and footpaths and bridges, etc. But the best bit is when you've created this model, you can then move it into the design stage. So it's reusable, as you've probably already gathered or will see. But it's also a collaboration tool. You can bring in your Revit models, your AutoCAD models, even SketchUp. It doesn't have to be Autodesk. Inventor, 3ds Max models, files. You can bring in GIS data, constraint data such as flooding data as well. It will place them automatically if they are georeferenced, which geospatial data will be, whereas your Revit models generally not, so you can manually place them. This doesn't replace Navisworks though. Doesn't do clash detection or anything like that. It's just great for early stage design. Get all your stuff together and work out your project. It's also a presentation tool, and the last webinar we did on that was very much about the presentations. Again, it's not a replacement for 3ds Max. You won't get photorealistic images and videos out. But if you saw the last presentation, you'll see they're pretty good, some of the images and videos that we can get out of here. But the key thing is you can get them out quickly, and you don't need any expertise, any specific expertise to be able to do that. I also showed you last time that you can store things locally as well, didn't I? You know, so you can store them either on your hard drive or on the server as well. You can control that access to the model, so you can give it to people, teams, companies using BIM 360 Docs, and you can also share via the web as well. For getting for data, working with data, I've put in the handout section. It's mainly for the UK audience, but also for people around the world. But I've got an understanding digital data document there, which is quite useful, and it goes kind of hand in hand with the GIS BIM conundrum, which again, that's a clickable link, so you can go and watch that webinar as well, and that explains how to get the data in at the beginning of the project. We then covered libraries, didn't we? And hopefully that gave you enough of an insight into working with InfoWorks and how to get the most out of it. Basically, libraries are just a way of organising your stuff, and you can add whatever you want into the library and you can save it for future use. After that, we did quantities, got out of road, bridge, tunnels, we did a bit of landform. Just to remind you, we did this, and we got areas and cut and fill in landform and roads and what have you. And we got spreadsheets out, didn't we? As again a starting point, which is quite useful. And then on Monday this week, we got the data out. We shared it with other software, and we learned how to save the model and share it on the web for the wider audience. And finally, we created images and videos of other presentations. So now we know what InfoWorks is, and we can get some data into it. We can analyze that data, we can do constraint checking, then do the preliminary design, and get some rudimentary quantities out, and then we can share the project to the relevant people. We should be good to go. Now, what I want to show you today is about working with multiple surfaces in InfoWorks. A lot of people get confused with this subject, and I just want to clear up a few things. Starting with Model Builder. The data that you get out of here in Model Builder, the land data, and I showed you Model Builder right at the beginning, you've probably already had a go with it. The data is 20 years old. It was flown by the Space Shuttle Endeavour back in the year 2000, and it captured landform of planet Earth at a resolution of approximately 1 arcsecond. That's about a 30-metre resolution to you and me, so it's a point every 30 metres. Now, this has been combined with a data set from a later mission called the ASTA GDM, and version 2 was released in 2011, so that's a little bit newer. It's also a little bit more accurate. Now, this one covered more of the planet, so ironically, you might find the data in the far north of the northern hemisphere or the south of the southern hemisphere is actually a bit newer and possibly a little bit better and a little bit more accurate. And in fact, I've been doing a project with some colleagues in Germany, but the project was in Sweden, and the data looked really good for there. I was quite impressed with it, actually, so it wasn't bad at all. Now, I could spend quite a while talking about that. So again, look at the handout, and it's a good place to start, you know, for understanding what that data is. And we're going to look at the difference between that and more and better quality data. LiDAR data is data that's been captured from space is one option. The model builder, the data you get from that is called LiDAR data. It could be aircraft or it could be drone usually. It can mostly be got from GIS software. So for example, in the UK, you could get it from your local authority. They could provide it. If you're working on their behalf, they'll usually provide it. Or if you're in the European Union or an EFTA state or North Macedonia, Serbia or Turkey, you can often find LiDAR data on the Inspire website. Now, this is a whole other conversation, and we could spend the next half hour just talking about that. Or if you want to know more about it, contact our office or again, download that document. It'll give you a little bit of more information on that. We'll just move on. We'll also look at civil 3D surfaces. So often you'll start a project with nothing, and then at some point you'll get a survey done, which arrives to you in a 3D DWG. We can make a surface in civil 3D. I'm not going to do that bit today because a lot of you aren't here to look at civil 3D. But once you've got that surface in civil 3D, you can then add it to your InfoWorks surface, and we will be doing that today. Also, we should have enough time, hopefully. It seems a big agenda. Because you already have a really nice model at the early stage, maybe once you've got your design done in civil 3D, you would like to add the surfaces back in to InfoWorks to improve the model and show off your actual design. I'll be doing that as well. Okay, so let's get on and do it, as they say. So here we are in InfoWorks. Now let me get just pull a few things together. So this is the surface in Model Builder. If you are new to this, I haven't gone through the list of people here, but if you are new to this, Model Builder is this gizmo here, and this will go away and get a load of data for our site. Now we're working in Wigan today, so we've got a site over here. It's actually over here. Turn the aerial on. Is this? Oh, it's one of these sites here. Can't remember which one. But we're going to be working in this, say, this area here. It isn't that area. Anyway, we're going to work in here. That's where it is. We're going to work in that site there today. And when we go and create the model, this is what you get. You get buildings and roads and coverages and waterways and railways as well, but I've removed them. And you can kind of see the kind of quality of the data. And in fact, if I just turn off the imagery and hit OK, you'll see that's the kind of quality of the data. Okay, what we can do is we can download the Inspire directive data, and we can get hold of data from different sources. So I've got some data from the Inspire directive. So again, we got that through data.gov.uk. It's a 1 meter LiDAR grid. The new data set that they're producing, the last one I downloaded was produced in January this year, so it's really new. They've started supplying it in GeoTIFF format, but some of the older data sets, if I just pick one, you'll be getting it in .asc format. It doesn't matter, they're both equally as good as each other. The difference is this one's massive. It's much bigger in terms of the size you saw in the last one, this is all of SD60NW in one file. The older versions, that would have been 25 files. So in here, let's just have a look at the difference. Drag and drop that in. And on the raster, you just clip it to the model extents. And we'll click OK. Now, this is relatively new. It arrived last year at some point. I can't remember exactly when. But when you create a surface, it now puts it into an uncategorized folder. So let's just have a look at what that means. It goes in here. Oh, God, that keeps happening, this. It's got stuck up there. I'll have to resize things. But basically, it gets put into this uncategorized folder here. And if you want to make it part of this ground surface, you just need to drag it into the ground surface and hit the little tick and hit OK. And you'll see that's much higher quality data. And I've shown you this before. And we can work with that data. Let's just turn that off though, because what I've got for this site is a survey in Civil 3D. There it is. As I said, I'm not going to show you how to work with Civil 3D. We can do that in other sessions. But basically, I've created this surface here, existing ground, which is just these contours here in 3D. So what we could do is we could put this surface into here. So let's do that. So we'll go back to InfoWorks and we'll find that surface. There it is, Wigan Survey, and just drag and drop it in. Now, when you drop a DWG, when we were doing libraries, I was mainly using 3D objects. We can also do overlays. I've done overlays in the past, but this time it's a Civil 3D object, so we'll hit OK. We'll just get a window up saying you've downloaded a Civil 3D, or you've dropped in a Civil 3D model. Okay, we'll come to the, I'm going to be doing this later on, so we'll be doing this more than once. So I'm not going to go into this too much, but basically you just make sure it's on the British National Grid, and you don't worry about the source or anything like that. Just close and refresh. And whatever's in that civil model will appear in here. And again, it says you've got a surface. It's gone into the uncategorized folder. Now, if I drag that into here and hit OK, you'll see it appears in here. Oh, I didn't turn it on, did I? Did you see that? I'm an idiot. Existing ground, turn it on. And there is my Civil 3D surface is now in there, which is rather nice. Now, the order that they land in here is important. If I turn that on and apply it, it's now putting in the standard ground model, which we don't need now if we've got this LiDAR. Then it's putting in this one here next. So that is the LiDAR data, and you can see the LiDAR data. And then it's putting in the existing ground. And everything that is in this area here, the ground surface, merges into one ground surface. And when we put on top of that the imagery, it's one surface. Okay, so the image is on that one surface. Let's turn that back off. Now, watch what happens if I change the order in here. If I drag that underneath here, so you can see the survey. Now what it'll do is it'll put in the standard elevation, then it'll put in my survey, and then it will overwrite the survey with SD60 because that is in that area. And you'll see it disappears. So the order that they land is important. It's from bottom to top. And there you go. You can see now in this area, that one is taking precedent because it appears in that area. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense, the order in which they land in. There's this area here, creating a new surface as well, a new surface layer. I'm going to come to that in a second because there's other things we can do with this as well. Let me just check my notes. Okay. If I was to create a new surface layer in here, just click on it and rename it, and I'll just call it survey. And if I was to drag the existing ground into the survey folder, what does that do? Well, let's just OK it. It creates both surfaces at the same time. So they both exist. They're not merged. They're two separate surfaces. Now, the other thing you can do is on here, we can put in there different layer settings. So if I just put on that survey there, a different material, you'll see it a little bit better. Let's just put some grass on it. There you go. And you see that? So both surfaces exist at the same time. A little bit underneath the ground, a little bit above the ground. By the way, to see underneath here, I just OK that. You need to turn back faces on. 3D graphics, show back faces. If I have that switched off, you can't see underneath because it doesn't show the back faces. I would recommend you leave that off by default. I only turned it on so you can see underneath here, because otherwise it's having to render up the back faces all the time and it'll just make your models a bit slower. So that's quite useful, that. So let's put that into practice. Let me just turn the back faces back off because I don't want to kill my machine. And I'm going to go to a different model. Let's go back to our Glenridding site. So if you think about what we've done there, and if you think about the Glenridding site that we've been working on over this time, what I've done here is I've taken this model and I've moved it to Civil 3D. Do you remember when we were talking about sharing the file, we can send it to Civil 3D? So here it is in Civil 3D. And I've done the proper design now. So this is my finished design. I've put a 1 in 100 slope on the car park. I've left the grassy area but sloped it back to the existing ground here. And I've created a road with a single crossfall on it all the way around here. Okay, so I've created that. Now, if we put this back into InfoWorks, what we can then do is we can put the car park into one surface category and put a style on it. And we can put the grass into another surface category and put the style on it. There is a little proviso which will become obvious in a minute. Now, so let's have a look at what I've created here. So the first thing is I've created the design surfaces. So that's my road surface. And then this is my site surface here. If I just turn that on, I'll do it the long way just so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so this is the site that I've created, which holds all the data for the car park and for the grassy area. And 22 holds the data for my road. So if I make that magenta, say, like so. Now, if I wanted the car park and the grassy area to have different materials on them, I've created some interim surfaces here. Okay, so let's just turn that one off because that's going to be a duplication. So I've created a surface for the car park. I'll just do it that way. Select, and I'll make the car park magenta. That's not right. Should look like that. Oh, I know why it's not right. It's because I had both of them selected because I'm an idiot. There you go. There's my car park. And then I've created a different surface. Do it the more old-fashioned way. Let's just make that one green. For the grassy area, which runs around the car park. So I've got these two surfaces here, plus the road surface. There we are. Okay. Now the only other surface I've got is I've got a final ground surface. And you can see in the preview down here, the final ground surface is the surface that covers everything that we've designed. Okay, so that's my whole new design. Now that can become quite useful, because if you think about this, if I was to merge this surface and this final ground surface in the same space, they will give you that kind of shimmering effect because they're in the same space. They're in exactly the same spot. So you always get this kind of weird shimmery effect. You will get the same in InfoWorks. So you can be quite clever about this, and you can take this surface, drop it a few mil, maybe 100 mil just to make it easier, and then put in your design surfaces separately. So let's do that. And we'll do an additional thing as well. Let's bring the road in and show you how you can manage the road in here as well. As I said last week and even Monday and what have you on the previous webinars, this is fairly short subject, so we'll add in bringing the road in because that's changed over the years. So first thing is delete all the preliminary design. God, did I say that right? Sounded a bit drunk, didn't I? Preliminary design. Difficult to say. So I've got rid of my original design, and what we're going to do is we're going to drop in that file. No, not the survey, the civil model. There it is. Okay, it's a 3D DWG. Now that DWG might hold lots of different items in it, and we may have to delete the odd thing, which is fine. So it's going to connect to this, and it's going to find all the elements that InfoWorks can play with, and then it's going to put them in the right category. So if it's a surface, it'll put it in the surface category. If it's a corridor, it'll put it in the road category. There is some weird thing happening as well, which I'll cover in a minute. And again, we've got all these tools in here we can play with, but there's multiple objects. So just close and refresh it. You'll get that surface window again because it says you've brought surfaces in. And then we'll just delete the bits we don't need. So there's the surfaces. It's saying I've put them in the uncategorized folder. Do you want to play with them now? Oh, it's come back to the right place. Excellent. So I'll just hit OK on that. We'll come back to that in a minute. These things here are pipes. That one there and that one there. And this is a bizarre thing. I don't know what's going on here. Basically, they are these alignments here. That alignment there and that alignment there. I create them alignments as cross sections, so I can do a cross section view of this. Oh God, everybody's trying to talk to me. So I don't know why they've done that, but it has. So we'll delete them. Okay, so there it is, pipes, civil model pipes. Just get rid of them. Don't need them. Next thing it brings in is coverage areas for the road. For display purposes, you could have the road just show as a coverage area if you want. We're not going to be doing that, so let's ignore that for now. So I'll delete them. There it's brought the civil road in. So that is the corridor model. We'll come back to that in a minute. Oh, postman's here now. It's just come in as this red blob at the moment. We'll come back to that in a minute. And then here's all our terrain surfaces. So let's get rid of the ones we don't want. The existing ground. We've already got that in here, so we don't need that. So let's get rid. There's the road surface. Well, actually, I don't need that either because, remember, my final ground has the road, the car park, and the grass area in. So let's get rid of the road surface, the road existing ground surface, the site surface, and we'll just leave in these interim ones, the grassy area and the car park, and the final ground. So let's do that. And OK. So let's go and just zoom in a bit, and we'll see a difference on our design surface. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add in the final ground into my surface here. Turn it on, hit OK, And this surface will update, and it will have, for example, that 1 in 100 slope on on there. Oh, everybody's talking again. Okay, I don't know if you can see. The building's just slightly in the air now because of my adjusted levels, and I'm confident that's a 1 in 100 slope now. Now, if I was to put in these in the same space, you'll get this kind of weird shimmering. So let's just do it. So we'll go back in, and this time I'm going to create a new surface layer, and I'm going to call it car park. And I'll create another new surface layer, and I'll call it grass area. And we'll put the car park in the car park one, and the grass area in the grass area one. Turn them on. I'll just apply it. The first thing is they're showing just as grey blobs, but look, they're in the same space. So there's that kind of shimmery thing going on. So one option you have, which is a nice little trick sometimes, is for the final ground, if you go to the geolocation, you can offset it in the Z. Just drop it a little bit, 50 mil or something. I'll just do it at 0.1 for now. So my ground is below the actual design ground. Didn't expect that. Let's just do that again. Final ground. I did it up, didn't I? Minus 0.1. Close and refresh. See, nobody said out in the comments, Ian, you've done it wrong. There we are, that's better. Okay, so now I've got these two surfaces in here separately to my model. So let's go and apply materials to them. So for the car park, layer settings, let's go and put in a car parky type colour. And for the grass area, layer settings, let's put a grassy type thing. And there is our surfaces. And clearly you can see my levels are different because her feet have sunk in the ground. The fact that he's slightly hovering is telling me that it's either David Blaine, or what's that other guy from Bradford, or that the surface has moved and I've got a slope on it now, which I didn't have before. It's brilliant. So I'm just going to start tweaking all our model to land on the new surface. You can multi-select, by the way, and you can drag things up and down all in one go. So that's working with these multiple surfaces. Let me just check that I've not missed anything. No, that'll do. Okay, next thing. Oh, I know what I need to do. I need to tell everybody, do not disturb, and then it'll stop giving me lots of messages, won't it? I always forget to do that. Let's just have a look at this road. As I mentioned, there's more we can do in here. So this road here, if we go into it, roads, on the Civil 3D DWG tab, basically it uses this component road options, and there is a mapping settings. And what this does, this allows us to map Civil 3D code sets. Those of you that know Civil 3D, you'll know what I mean by code sets. It takes the link codes, the materials that are on them link codes, and we can apply materials to them in InfoWorks. So if I click on component mapping settings, you can see here, here's all the sub-assemblies that are in that corridor model. So for example, there's one called daylight there, and we can map that. Let's find a shape code. Okay, so the shape code daylight. Why is that missing? Okay, let's do something else. Yeah, just pick, there's the codes, yeah, sub-assemblies. So if I was to pick, for example, Earthworks, find the shape code in there, which isn't in there, find the link code, daylight. You can put it into a category if you want. I'll just ignore that. And then we can tell it to use a material. So if I double click that, go to my materials, I'll pick terrain and I'll just pick grass. Okay, so the subassembly Earthworks, it's found the link code. Oh yeah, of course, I'm thinking of shape codes. Friday brain's working there. Link code daylight, it's now going to put it on, make it grass. Okay, so if I do save and close and refresh, we should have grass on these link codes here, which we haven't. Why is that, Ian? Go back in. Earthworks, link code daylight, material grass turned on. I wonder if there are more overwriting it. Let me just double check. Turn all of them off. There's a lot of them, isn't there? Let's try the pave one. So if I do that one, link code, pave, roadway, concrete. And if that doesn't work, could cry, or I could, it's worked. There you go. Okay, so that's what you do, you map them. Now here's the good news. The good news is, don't know whether you noticed when I went into the mapping, there is an import and an export tool. So if I create it once and export it, just like we did when we did libraries with the styles, I will go in and find it in my data folder, blocks and assemblies, InfoWorks models, styles, no, rules, there it is, corridor import, simple road, curb and earthworks. So basically, here's one I did earlier. So the earthworks has got the grading on it, category grading, I think that's where I went wrong. Grass, and then I've got these curbs, and the shape codes will give it a solid object as well. You'll see there's a thickness to my road as well, and to the curbs, etc. So you'll end up with the top and bottoms as well. Okay, you can also tell it which is the top surface link and which is the datum link or the formation link. So when I hit save and close and refresh, this should colour it all up nicely. And there we go. Now, if we were to have a look at underneath, you can see that it's got a thickness to it because it's showing the formation links as well. Okay, which is rather nice. So that's how you can work with multiple surfaces, importing civil 3D roads. A few tips on working with the extra surfaces. I think the key takeaway in here is remember that there's an order which it creates things. The other thing to bear in mind, just to keep your models smaller, if you don't need that original data, delete it. Now, if I delete it from here, in this proposal here, it will make my model a bit smaller, which is quite nice because I don't need it, because I've got the LiDAR data that I got from the Environment Agency. But of course, using these proposals, it can still be there. I can go right the way back to Model Builder, and it'll go back to using just that one data source, which was the original model builder data source? He says, waiting for it. And there's my original model builder data source. It does do that, by the way. Occasionally it loses the surface material. Once you've been messing with it for too long, you just hit refresh and it'll bring back the surface material. There it is. Okay. So that's gone all the way back to my original model builder when I very first drew these and put that Revit model in there. Okay, and I think we'll make it slightly shorter today. F5. And I'll invite any more questions. When we're finished, I'll put up the webinar dates again that we can get, so you can make a note of the up and coming 3, the 1 workshop and the 2 webinars. So I'll put that up at the end again. If you have any queries, you're welcome to email me or whatever. You can put them in here. Here's a question. Let me just make this a bit bigger so I can actually read the damn thing. You opened the second document, Stephen, and it was about sharing your project. Was it? Am I being dumb? Let me just open it up myself. No, it's the correct one, but I remember at the beginning, I noticed that I'd left the title sharing. That was my mistake. Yeah, it is the correct one. It's just got the wrong title on it. Mainly because I was an idiot, to be quite honest. But so it is right. What resolution of Bing Maps in Model Builder? Well, that's a really good question. What is the resolution of Bing Maps? It depends. So let's go in here and I'll show you. Basically, there are 20 levels of resolution for the Bing Maps. If we go in here, it will tell us them resolutions, which is really nice. This is exactly the same for all you AutoCAD users, Map 3D, Civil 3D. Anybody using AutoCAD, it's the same source. And in the raster, you can see that it's at level 17. And it tells you it's 1.19, on average, 1.19 meter per pixel. So that's the resolution. But you can improve it. If I click on the downward arrow, I can go up to level 19, where it's around 300 millimeters. But this varies depending on where you are. So although they output it at 300 mil, in some areas around the world, the resolution is really low. Yes, it's outputted at a high res, but the actual image itself is really low. But that will improve it. If I click that to 19, it'll take about, half a minute to bring in on a small site like this. If it's a big site, go and make yourself a cup of tea and let it do it. But it will bring it back, just like you can in AutoCAD, in AutoCAD and Civil 3D and Map 3D. You can go back in and tell it to get better quality aerial imagery. If I turn the aerial imagery on here, Map Aerial, okay, and if I capture that area and turn the map off, okay, you can see it's quite low resolution, but if you select the image and change it to very fine, watch that resolution improve. There you go. So it's exactly the same data source as that, okay? Oh, 49. I'll carry on looking at questions. Where can we watch these webinars? Well, if you download the guide, the InfoWorks Taking the Next Steps Working with Multiple Surfaces PDF, on that PDF, there, on demand. Click on that link. And if you go to that web page, which I will get open up, it's just coming up on the other screen. There it is. And you'll see AEC webinars, tips and tutorials. I did notice it's under Civil 3D, and there's all the previous ones, beginner's guide, next steps, and then I will post this one to our marketing team and they will put that one up. Usually takes about a week, maybe a little bit longer, okay? Stephen, yes, you're right. It does only have one page different from the previous one, and that is the one page I added for doing this webinar. Yeah, they're not totally new. Well, they are totally new, but basically it's a series. So if you download them all for every one, you end up with a lot of duplications because of the recap. But yeah, that's that. I ought to redo the first page and republish it because I got the wrong word. I forgot to change the. Those of you that came in late, I forgot to change the title, and we started off with the same title as last week. You want my email address? Did I not put any contact details on? No, I didn't. I will give you it directly rather than publishing it. So let me send that to you. Oh, this is all gone. Hang on, let me move that over. Yeah, better. There you go. Okay, last thing then, let's just go to, yeah. Thanks for all your questions, everybody. I'll just move that out of the way. Remember, if you have support queries, if you've broken something, or you just need a little bit of support, then please go to our support, and we will help you. If you've got support with Autodesk, obviously use them, or if you have support with your own reseller, use them. But if you've got support with us, then by all means get in touch with us. If you haven't got support with us and you get in touch with us, we'll just ask you to get support with us, so you can do it either way. Okay, we're here to help, you know. So don't forget, while we're in this weird, strange times, you know, just lean on us as much as you need to. Okay. And that is it. And for once, I finished 10 minutes early, everybody. You'll be pleased. You know, get a nice cup of tea now. So thanks very much for joining me. If you do have any more questions, place them in. I'll leave up the end slide with the next webinars for about 3 or 4 minutes, basically while I go and make a cup of tea. And I'll see you next time, hopefully. Thank you again.